Sir, it's audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
So we can start.
Welcome the challenges, looking for the opportunities in every situation to learn and grow in wisdom. Happy morning to one and all gathered here. On behalf of KPR Institute of Engineering and Technology, on behalf of organizing committee and my own behalf, I once again welcome you all for the sixth day of AICT sponsored STTP series. In this delightful occasion, I am very happy and honored to welcome our today's resource person, Professor VJ Vijayalakshmi. VJ Vijayalakshmi Professor Vijay Vijayalakshmi, Department of EEE, KPR Institute of Engineering and Technology. She received her bachelor's degree from Ramakrishna Engineering College, Coimbatore, and master's degree from Anna University, Coimbatore. She has published 25 papers in international journals with Scopus Index and Web of Science, and 15 plus papers in national journals. She has presented her research article in more than 20 international conferences and national conferences. She has been recognized as a best mentor and best motivator from NPTEL, and she has completed 24 NPTEL courses with top scorer 5%, 1%, and 3%. She is an active reviewer for many SCI and Scopus Index journals. She has completed 52 online courses in Coursera, Snyder, etc. She has enriched his knowledge by learning by doing many online courses. She has 10 years of teaching and research experience. On behalf of all the participants and my own behalf, I welcome you, ma'am, for this session and request you to take over this session.
Thank you, sir. Sir, Ravi sir, is the screen visible?
Yes, ma'am, it is visible.
Also, good morning, and I welcome you all once again. I would like to share some of the points which I came across in the power management strategies of electric vehicles. So the overview of the presentation is we'll go with the types of electric vehicle, though everyone has said it, just a small glimpses of the electric vehicles. Then the classification of hybrid electric vehicles, the hybrid electric vehicle configuration, the power flow in the hybrid electric vehicle, the architecture of hybrid electric vehicle, and finally the energy management strategy. Coming to the overview of the electric vehicles and their challenges, if we take the electric vehicles, it can be classified in various ways. So we have come across all the past 1 week. We have many categorization of the electric vehicles. So generally, it is based on the propulsion devices or the energy sources or even the energy carriers. So it is used as a medium to transfer the energy from one energy sources to the devices. So based on the propulsion system, if we take the electric vehicles, it can be classified as an pure electric vehicle or hybrid electric vehicle. So a pure electric vehicle, it uses only the electric motor as a sole device for propulsion, while an hybrid electric vehicle, it uses both the electric motor and the IC engines for the propulsion. If we classify the electric vehicles on the basis of energy sources, this pure electric vehicle will be further classified either into a battery electric vehicle or a fuel cell. So hybrid uses both the liquid fuel and the battery as the energy source, while battery uses only the energy sources alone. And a similar classification can be done based on the energy carriers also, where the energy carrier for a battery, it is only the electricity, while it is for a fuel cell, it is nothing but the hydrogen. As the first resource person, the Janaki ma'am, she said the electric vehicles which comes under the family of the pure electric vehicle, either we can go for battery or a fuel cell or an ultra capacitor or even the ultra flywheel electric vehicle. And the next classification is the hybrid electric vehicles. Normally, we don't go for a pure one. We always go for a hybrid electric vehicles. So based on the ratio of this hybridization between the motor and the IC engine, we can classify it as either a micro or a mild hybrid, full hybrid, or the plug-in hybrid electric vehicles, or even the range extended hybrid vehicles. So here if we take the rating of the electric motor in case of an micro hybrid, it is very low. And in case of an range extended, it is high. On the other hand, if we see the rating of the IC engine, it is high in the micro hybrid, whereas it is low in the range hybrid. That is the reason this micro, mild, and the full hybrid are clubbed together, and together we call it as an conventional hybrid electric vehicle. While this plug-in hybrid vehicle and the range extended hybrid vehicles are together, it is called as an grid-enabled hybrid electric vehicle. So what is this difference? Where the difference lies? So the difference between these two types is that one, the conventional electric vehicles can be refueled only at the filling stations, that is in the petrol pumps. While the grid-able, it can be refueled both electrically and at the filling stations. So it enables the direct charging of the batteries using the charging points in addition to the refueling by the liquid fuels. And in case of an micro hybrid, so in micro hybrid, if we take an ISD of around 3 to 5 kilowatts, it is used. And the system voltage, if we take, it comes around 14 to 42 volts. Now, what is this ISD? So we all know that an IC engine, it requires a starter motor for starting of that IC engine. And you also require an alternator to recharge the battery until that IC engine has started functioning. So these two functions, one is for the starting, the other one is to recharge the battery. It is clubbed together. So that clubbed together, the device, you call it as an integrator, starter, generator, nothing but an ISD. So it is nothing, an electric machine. This electric machine, it will be connected to the IC engine by means of a belt-driven system, or you can directly even mount it to the crankshaft. So what is the role of the integrated starter generator? It is to assist the IC engine. And now again coming back to the micro hybrid integrated starter generator, it supports not only the starting of the IC engines, but also the stopping of the IC engines in case of an micro hybrid. So stopping of the IC engines in case when it is at rest. So this feature, it aids the fuel economy to the vehicles, and it also helps in the recovery of regenerative power, which is available during the braking condition also. Now it is low power ISD, so it is connected using only a belt driven system, not an advanced one. So in case of a mild hybrid, so a slightly higher ISD compared to the micro hybrid, it is used there, which is around 7 kilowatts to 15 kilowatts and a system voltage of 100 to 150 volts. So this feature, it enables not only the starting or stopping and the regenerative braking as in case of a micro one, but this can also support the IC engine in power sharing during the normal operating condition. Since the rating is high, an extended version power assisting capability, it is also done here. Now coming to the full hybrid, it operates either in the IC engine mode alone or in the electric motor alone, or even the combination of both the IC engine and the motor together. So it requires a complicated transmission system which it is known as electronic variable transmission, which is called as an EVT. That is called as an electronic variable transmission, generally of a high power device around 50 to 60 kilowatts, and a system voltage of 500 to 600 volts is possible. So various operations are also possible. One is the start stop or the regenerative braking, the power assisting, and also the electrical launch, which means a full hybrid can start in all electric mode using electric motor alone. Now coming to the grid-enabled hybrid electric vehicles. So this plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, it is derived from the full hybrid configuration. So this system, it mostly operates in the blended mode. The electric blended mode, the electric motor and the IC engine, what it will do is it will complement each other. So it complements in each other in such a way that the fuel economy is always at the maximum. Now if we take the range extender, it is derived from the battery electric vehicle. So it mostly operates in the pure electric mode with electric motor alone as the propulsion devices. So these are the different configurations. Now coming to the hybrid electric vehicle configuration, we have 4 types. One is the series hybrid, series parallel, parallel hybrid, and the next one is a complex hybrid system. So first one, if we take the series hybrid, the mechanical output, it is first converted into electricity using a generator. So from the fuel tank, the IC engine, first it is converted into electricity using a generator. So the converted electricity, what it does is, it either charges the battery or it can bypass the battery to propel to the wheels through a motor. It is done by using a motor and the mechanical transmission. Now, concept-wise, if we see this series hybrid vehicles, it is like an IC engine assisting the electric vehicles. The next one, parallel hybrid vehicles, it allows both the IC engine and the electric motor to deliver the power to drive the wheels. Since both the IC engines and the electric motors are coupled to drive shaft, the propulsion power, if we take, it is supplied either by the IC engines alone or by the electric motors only or by both. Now if you see here, the electric motors, it can be used as a generator to charge the battery by regenerative braking, or it absorbs the power from the IC engines when this output, it is greater than that of the required. In case of a parallel hybrid, in both the engines as well as the electric motors, it directly supply torque to the wheels. So here if we take, there is no energy conversion, and probably no energy loss. And other feature is that there is no need for a generator or a traction motor. So due to these added advantages and the characteristics, most of the electric vehicles, that is the passenger cars, they go in for the parallel configuration because of the added features in it. Coming to the next one, that is the series parallel system. So series parallel system, it incorporates the features of both series system as well as the parallel hybrid. However, this configuration, it additionally needs an electric machine and a gear arrangement. So little bit controlling, it is a little complex is there while controlling a series parallel hybrid system. And the last one, that is the complex hybrid system. So we have now classified it as series parallel and series parallel, but the complex system, we cannot classify whether it is a series system or it is a parallel system or it is a series parallel system. Why the difference is that you have a electric motor. So this power flow, it is bidirectional in the electric motor, whereas a unidirectional power flow happens in the generator. That's why a system, it is often complex in nature. Now the same thing what we discussed in the series hybrid vehicle. So in this diagram, if we see, there is a mechanical decoupling between the IC engines and the wheels. So the IC engines, it operates at a very narrow optimal region, nearly an ideal torque speed characteristics. So this ideal torque speed characteristics of this electric motor makes the multi-gear transmission. That we doesn't need that multi-gear transmission. This is one advantage. So since it has an ideal torque speed characteristics, it is one added advantage. But there are some disadvantages also. So what is that disadvantages? The energy is converted twice here. So if the energy is converted twice, it reduces the overall efficiency of the system. And similarly, two electric machines are needed. One is the big traction motor is required because it is the only torque source. It is a belt-driven wheel, so it is the only torque source. And that is the reason if we go for a series hybrid vehicle, we must need a large space for the engines alone. That's the reason this series hybrid vehicles, they always go in for using this vehicles in the buses, where heavy commercial buses or military purposes, where you have sufficient space to occupy the engines. And coming to the next one, the power flow. So why do we go for this power flow controls? What is the need to go for this power flow controls? Now we have seen many different configurations. So there are different configurations, and we have to incorporate different power control strategies also to regulate the power flow in this. So if we go for some technique, we will have an objective. We have to satisfy some of the goals. So the first goal, what we will think about it is the fuel efficiency. We have the maximum fuel efficiency. The second one is the minimum emission. So because for the emission control only, nowadays we are not using the IC engines and we are going for the hybrid electric vehicles. So emission is also one of our key goal for us to go for the power flow control. The third one is the system cost, whether it is affordable or whether the cost it is high. Depending on that only we can choose the electric vehicles. The last one is the driving performance. We should have a good driving performance. So all these are the control strategies. That means it is the goal. So in order to achieve this, we should consider certain parameters. That is to maximize the fuel efficiency, or the emission should be minimum, or the system cost should be minimum, and we should get a good driving performance. For all these things, we have to consider certain parameters. So what is the first parameter is the optimal IC engine operating point. So IC engine operating point means the torque speed plane of the IC engine. It can be based on whether it is in the maximum fuel economy or the minimum emission, or we can have a compromise between the fuel economy as well as the emission. So that is the operating point. The next one is the optimal IC operating line. So in case of an IC engine, it needs to deliver different power demands. So we'll fix a line and ensure that the operating points are within that specific line. The last one is the safe battery voltage. So the battery voltage, it may be, you can significantly alter that during the charging condition or during the discharging condition or even during the regenerative charging. So this battery voltage should not exceed the maximum voltage limit, or it should not fall below the minimum voltage limit also. So these are the 3 parameters we have to consider while going for the controlling of the power flow in the hybrid electric vehicles. So there are 4 systems what we have seen earlier. One is the series parallel and the complex hybrid. The first one, the power flow control in the series hybrid system. So any driving vehicle, if we take, we'll have number of modes. So basic mode is whether it is at rest or you're going to start it, or there is a braking condition or a complete stop condition. Similarly, here also in series hybrid also, we have 4 modes of operation. So if we take the mode 1 during startup, that is the mode 1, a normal driving condition. So in this mode, both the IC engines and the battery that is delivering the electrical energy to the power converter, it drives the electric motor, and once it drives the electric motor, through the transmission system, the wheels also it will be driving it. So here it is mentioned that B, it is nothing but the battery, G is the generator and the IC engine, M is the motor, fuel tank, power converter and the transmission system. Coming to the mode 2, it is a light load. So the IC engine output, it is greater than that required to drive the wheels. Hence, a fraction of the generated electrical energy, it is used to charge the batteries also. So the charging of the battery takes place till the battery capacity, it reaches a proper level. And that's why if you see both the diagrams, there will be an indication of the change of the direction. And the mode 3. So the mode 3 is nothing but during the braking condition or during the deceleration. So the electric motor, it acts as a generator which converts the kinetic energy of the wheels into electricity, and this is in turn, it is used to charge the batteries also. The mode 4, that is when the vehicle is at the stop condition, the battery, it can be charged by the IC engines through the generator. Even when your vehicle is at rest, the batteries can be charged. So this is in case of a series hybrid system. Coming to the power flow in the parallel hybrid. So similar to that of the series hybrid, here also we have 4 modes. So the mode 1 is during the startup. So during the startup condition or during the full acceleration. So both the IC engines and the electric motor, it shares the required power to drive the vehicle. This happens in the mode 1 during the startup condition. Now the next one is the mode 2. So during the normal driving, the required traction power, it is supplied only by the IC engines alone. So the electric motor, it remains in the off condition. This is during the normal driving condition. Coming to the mode 3, that is during the braking condition or during the deceleration, the electric motor, it acts as a generator. So this acts as a generator to charge the batteries. This happens during the braking condition or during the deceleration condition. The last one, that is the mode 4. So under the light loading condition, the traction power, it is delivered by the IC engines. So the IC engines, what it will do is, it also charges the battery through the electric motor. So these are the 4 modes in the parallel hybrid system. Now we know what happens, how the power flow happens in the series hybrid electric vehicles as well as the parallel hybrid electric vehicles. So we'll come to the architecture of this electric vehicles. Now the power flow is happening, how to control that power flow. So how that happens. So if we take the architecture, we have multiples of electronic control unit. One is the hybrid electronic control unit, the transmission electronic control unit, or the motor or generator control unit, power electronics, the battery. So the air conditioning, we have the n number of controlling units. And the first one, that is the hybrid electronic control unit. So the hybrid electronic control unit, it commands to all other control units, and it selects the operational mode it based on the driver's input. So the driver's input, it is whether it is starting or a normal one, or there is a brake that is applied, or he is going to stop the vehicle. So depending on that mode, this hybrid electronic control unit, it controls the entire vehicle. So this unit, it is responsible for the energy management also. Typically, the goal of this control, it is to minimize the fuel consumption. For example, if we get a car, the first thing what we do is we go to purchase the car, we'll ask how much is the mileage. So that is the typical goal. So for each liter of petrol, if we take this hybrid electronic control unit, it tries to provide maximum mileage. So the command, what it gives the command is, one is the amount of torque and the power from the IC engine. And similarly, what is the amount of time that is taken to charge the batteries. So that is done using hybrid electronic control unit. Now coming to the electric motors electronic control unit, and this control unit, it is responsible for switching off the motors from the motoring mode to the generator mode. Also, this controls the motor to deliver the torque demanded by the hybrid electronic control unit, because this hybrid electronic unit only, it gives the command signal of the torque that is delivered. So this electric motor control unit, it consists of various control strategies. One is the torque control or the field weakening, etc. The next one is the transmission electronic control unit. So the transmission electronic control unit provides the correct gear ratio to control the torques and the angular speed of the electric motor as well as the IC engine. So this is done by means of a transmission electronic control unit. Coming to the power electronics. This power electronics control unit, now we have a battery. The first step is having a power from the battery is only the first step. So this power must be delivered to the electric motor during the motoring mode, and at the voltage and the current that is needed for the motor. For regenerative braking, the power, it must be accepted from the electric motor. So the function of this power electronic control unit is, it receives the command from the hybrid electronic control unit. So once it receives the command from that electronic control unit, and it controls the inverter. So the energy flows, it is controlled in both the ways, during the charging condition or during the discharging, so that a control switch is there between the motor as well as the generator mode also, to control the motor as well as the generator. Operate in a motor mode or it should operate in a generator mode. The next one is the battery control unit. So the battery control unit, if we take, or in case we can also say it as a battery system. So this battery management system, it and measures the temperature. So it assures whether we need to provide any cooling facility for the battery. So this battery management system, it avoids the stress of heat and the over temperature. So this over temperature takes place when there is an excessive charging or discharging. So that condition, the excessive charging condition or the excessive discharging condition, it is eliminated by means of this battery management system. Why this is done is, this is to ensure that the battery life, it is long lasting, and also the efficiency also it is maximum. So this happens in the battery management system. The control area network. So control area network is shown here. So this control area network, it is a fast high rate network. So this control area network enables the communication between the electronic control units. So in this control, most of the data that is updated over here. So when it will be updated is every 10 milliseconds we can data, and also we can check the reliability of the data that is fed over here. And how this is done is, all the control variables. So we have large number of control variables over here. So all these control variables either fall in the mechanical category or the electrical category or the discrete category. In any one of the three categories, all these control variables falls. So for example, if the control variable, it falls under, then some variables related to the IC engine or the gear ratio or the speed, it can be monitored. Now it falls under the electrical mode, then the current that is supplied to the battery or the inverters or the electric motors or characteristics, this can be monitored. So this is taken care by area network. Coming to the energy management strategy. So the hybrid electronic control unit. So this hybrid electronic control unit, what we have seen here, this is the heart of the control architecture. For any hybrid vehicle, if we take, this is the heart of the control architecture. So, and this is known as energy management strategy. So what is the energy management strategy is, these are nothing but the algorithms. So algorithms that decides the power split between the engine and the motor. So in order to improve the fuel economy and optimize the performance of the hybrid electric vehicles, we go in for the energy management strategy. Lots of research works has been conducted for the energy optimization, and the same is extended to the plug-in hybrid electric vehicles also. And again, why lots of researches? We normally, if we go for an optimization technique, we can easily claim that we got some global point that is more precise one, and easily it can be published. So that is the thing, we go for lots of research over here, and also it is the very essential to control the power. A controller that is designed for a particular set of parameters, we say it is a robust one. So why it is robust is, it has to perform under different sets of conditions. So to deal with this uncertainty, robust controllers, so they are designed to function properly within certain uncertain parameter set or disturbances set. Because we have number of disturbances, we don't have any prediction of the vehicles also. So we have some uncertain parameters. So optimization problem, it will be optimal. If we take an optimization problem, it will be optimal within the neighboring set of solutions. That is a local optimization problem. If we take a global optimal one, in contrast to the local, it is going to be the optimal solutions among the all possible solutions of the problem. So based on this, this control strategies are broadly classified as, one is the rule, the other one is the optimization based control strategy. And again, we have some subcategories over here. Rule based, it is again classified as fuzzy or the deterministic control. The optimization, again, it is classified as global optimization or the real-time optimization. Now, coming to the rule-based optimization. So, the control strategies, if we take, they are the fundamental controls. So these are the fundamental control scheme that depends on the mode of operation. So depending on the mode of operation, it can be easily implemented with real-time supervisory control to manage the power flow in a hybrid vehicle. So these rules, how these rules are determined is, it is based upon the human intelligence or the mathematical models, and generally we don't have prior knowledge of the cycle in the rule-based system. So these rule-based controllers, they are nothing but the static controllers. So basically we take the operating points. Operating points are nothing but the IC engines, the traction of the motor, generator, all those things are the operating points. This operating points, it is chosen using the rule tables or the flow charts to meet the requirement of the driver. So, and to meet that requirement and the other components to make it more in an efficient manner. So, this decision, it is related only based on the instantaneous inputs only. No prior knowledge of the driving cycle, it is there in the rule-based control strategy. Now coming to the fuzzy rule-based control, if we take the fuzzy rule-based control strategy, it is unique to handle. Numeric data can be handled simultaneously in case of an fuzzy rule-based control. So in fuzzy logic, the truth of any system is a matter of degree. So fuzzy control, it is obviously, it is simple and it is easy to realize. So most of them, they go for the fuzzy rule-based strategy. So it is a multi-valid logic. So it is derived from certain sets of theory to deal with the appropriate reasons. So intelligent control is also performed using fuzzy logic as a tool. The knowledge, whatever the knowledge the expert has, what they will do is they will code it. So they will code in the form of a rule base, and it is used to make some decisions in it. So what we have is we have some degree of freedom to control it in the fuzzy. And again in fuzzy we have a traditional fuzzy control strategy, adaptive fuzzy control strategy, the predictive fuzzy control strategy. The first one, the traditional fuzzy control strategy, its efficiency, it is based on the selection of input or the output based control strategy. So this efficiency, it is based upon three parameters. One is the input, output, rule based. In this we have modes are there. Is to optimize the fuel use. The next one is the fuzzy efficiency. So these two are generally, it is required to control the electric vehicle operation. This fuzzy logic control, it always accepts the battery state of charge and the desired IC engine torque as the input. Based on these inputs as well as the selected mode, what the driver selects, this IC, the operating point of this IC engine, it is set. Now a question will be there. What is the power required by this electric vehicle? So this power required, it is nothing but the difference of the total required and the power required from the IC engines. So in case of an optimal fuel use strategy, this control, it instantaneous fuel. This instantaneous fuel consumption, it is based on the fuel use map, and it maintains the sufficient battery of the while delivering the demanded torque. In efficiency strategy, So we said we have two strategies. One is the optimal fuel, the other one is the efficiency strategy. So in the efficiency strategy, what happens is the IC engines operating points are set torque region. So near the torque region means where the efficiency is the highest at the particular engine speed. So this makes the motor to force the IC engines to operate the region of minimum fuel consumption. But we should ensure that the battery state of charge, it is maintained within the limit. So this happens in a traditional fuzzy control. Only two operating strategies. One is to optimize, other one is the efficiency maintenance. Coming to the adaptive fuzzy control. So in adaptive fuzzy control, most of the researchers, they say that this strategy, it can optimize both the fuel efficiency and the emission simultaneously. But both the things are, it is conflicting. So if you go for maintaining the emission, you cannot go for compromising with the fuel efficiency. Both are conflicting objectives. That means how they are claiming is, if we try to achieve one objective, you cannot satisfy the other, but you can choose an appropriate weight for it. So if we focus on choosing the appropriate weight for the fuel economy and the emission, you can satisfy it. So it means line should be set, and within that line, your fuel efficiency and emission can be. Why? Because government has very stringent air pollution laws and the operating points. So we cannot go for high emissions. So we have to normalize those values. This normalization, it can be done based on the data map already what we have. That happens in the adaptive fuzzy control. Coming to the predictive fuzzy control, if the of the driving trip, it is priorly known, and if we know where we are going, so it is easy to obtain a global optimum solution. Either than a local optimum solution, we can go for a global optimum solution, that is to minimize the fuel emission as fuel consumption and the emission as well. So we can use a GPS system. So a GPS system, it is fixed to make the routes clear, so that we have knowledge about the system. So this is done using a predictive fuzzy control. So for example, if a vehicle is running on a highway and will enter into a city limit, so it is we can advise to restore more energy by charging the batteries for the later use. So this is possible in case of an predictive fuzzy control. So same thing, what we have discussed here in the previous slides, an IC engine efficiency map, it is shown. The lines are, one second. So the lines here are using some imbutions. Map is divided into three regions. One is the A region, the other one is the B region, and the next one is the C region. So if we take the region A, it is only the electric motors. So in this region, if we take only the electric motors, it is used. So because in this region, the fuel efficiency, it will be very, very poor. So only electric motors, it is used. And coming to this B region, the IC engines are used since this region has higher fuel efficiency. In region C, if we take both as well as the electric motors are being used. This in case of an rule-based control methods. The next one is the deterministic rule-based control strategy. Here, the rules are designed with the aid of fuel economy or the emission data. So the IC engine operating points or the power flow, the drive. So based upon all these things, the rules are designed. So implementing these rules, it is performed through the lookup table to share the power demand between the IC engines as well as the electric motor. This happens in the deterministic rule-based control strategy. Coming to the optimization-based control strategy, if we take, so the goal of a controller is to minimize the cost function. So cost function, what we call it as cost function, it is nothing but the objective function. So this objective function means it includes the emission, fuel consumption and the torque depending upon the application what we are using, what we are going. So these control techniques, it does not result in the real-time energy management directly, but based on the instantaneous cost function, a real-time control strategy can be obtained. This instantaneous cost function, it relies on the system variable at the current time, at that operating time, what the driver operates, in which mode the driver operates, it depending upon that operating mode, it depends. So this optimization based control strategy, coming to the next one, the optimization based control strategy, it is again divided as global optimization or the real-time optimization. Coming here, it is the global optimization or the real-time optimization. So considering the global optimization techniques, so this, it requires the knowledge of the entire driving pattern. So entire driving pattern is how is the battery, state of charge of battery, the driving condition, how the driver responses, the route, etc. All these things, it should be considered. So due to this complexity in the computational procedures, they are not easily implemented for real-time applications. So in order to resolve it, we have certain programmings. One is the linear programming, the dynamic programming, the genetic algorithms, or still we have some more programmings. Coming to the real-time optimization, so since the global optimization technique we have, they are not suited for any real-time analysis. That is the reason we are going for the real-time analysis. So real-time optimization technique is always it is always performed for the power split vehicles maintaining the battery charges. So we have a decoupling control, model predictive, robust control. All those techniques are there in the real-time optimization. So these are the optimization techniques. So this algorithms, it decides the power split between the engine and the motor. So why these algorithms are generally used is to improve the fuel economy as well as to optimize the performance of the hybrid electric vehicles. So thanks for the opportunity, Ravi sir.
Hello.
Sir, 1 second. Okay. So thank you for the opportunity that is given. So the extended version of this programming, it will be it continued in the series 2. How the optimization techniques and what are the optimization techniques, all these things, it will be continued in the series 2. Ravi sir?
Yes, ma'am. So the assessment as well as the feedback form has been shared here. Kindly fill the assessment and the feedback form. Your certificates and the PPTs will reach you within 4 working days. So kindly fill the assessment and the feedback form. So at this juncture, I would like to thank Professor Vijay Vijayalakshmi ma'am for her informative session, and on behalf of the organizing team, I'd like to thank all the participants for making it the series 1 a grand success, and we'll be expecting you all for the next series 2 also. Thank you all.